I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years now. We met in college, hit it off right away, and for the most part, I thought we had a good thing going. She's smart, funny, a little bitchy sometimes, okay, a lot of bitchy, but I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Things started feeling off a few months ago. Small stuff at first. She'd be late when she said she'd be home, get defensive if I asked where she'd been. I'd find her texts open on her phone that she'd quickly close when I came near, and sometimes she'd get strangely secretive about her phone. I brushed it off like it was nothing. Maybe she was just stressed or worried about work. She's a campaign manager, which is intense, especially during fundraising season. I figured she was just busy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then, last week, I saw her slip her phone into her purse when she thought I wasn't looking. That's not unusual, but what was weird was I saw a message pop up on her screen that made my stomach drop. It wasn't a work message, no, it was something more personal, more intimate. It was from someone named Jason. The message said, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've been thinking about last time." My heart started pounding. I didn't even know Jason, and the tone of that message, definitely not friendly. It was steamy, suggestive, clearly more than just a casual flirt. I didn't confront her right then. I just tucked the phone away and pretended I hadn't seen anything, but I couldn't shake the suspicion. I started paying more attention. Over the next few days, she was more defensive, more irritable. She snapped at me over small things, like I'd done something wrong just for asking a simple question. She insisted she was stressed, that she was working late, that I was overthinking everything. But I knew better. Then came the real shock. I was at home last night, winding down after a long day, when I decided to check the security footage from the campaign venue. It's silly, I know, but I got curious. My wife has always been careful about her phone, her secrets, but I thought maybe there was something I was missing. And what I saw, it was like a punch to the gut. There she was, Lisa, sneaking into the back room during a fundraising event. Not alone, though. She was with Jason, and they were kissing heavily behind some curtains. It lasted a few seconds, but enough to see that it was her. I recognized her face, her hair, her body language. She was cheating on me with the campaign manager, the guy I thought was just a professional associate. I watched in disbelief. My wife, the woman I trusted, was screwing around with someone I never even suspected. It wasn't just a one-time thing. They were in that back room for a good 10 minutes, clearly doing more than just kissing. I saw them adjust their clothes afterward, and she looked around cautiously before slipping out. I felt like I was going to be sick. All those nights I'd been worried about her being late, about her phone, about her telling me she was working late, she had been with him. I couldn't sleep last night. I kept going over everything, replaying the footage, trying to understand how I missed all of this. I felt betrayed, humiliated, stupid for not seeing it sooner. The worst part was the realization that she'd been lying to my face for months. She told me she was exhausted, that her work was demanding, that she was just doing her best. And all the while she was sneaking around with Jason, probably screwing him during those fundraising events I used to pride myself on attending with her. Today, I finally confronted her. I knew I had to. I played the footage for her on my phone. Her face paled, and she tried to deny everything at first. She said I was mistaken, that I was paranoid, that I was reading too much into things. She called me crazy, accused me of spying on her, of invading her privacy. But I wasn't about to be fooled anymore. I told her I knew the truth, that I had proof, that she'd been lying straight to my face for months. Her little lies about work, her secret late nights, her evasiveness, everything crumbled in that moment. She got furious. Started yelling, calling me insecure, obsessive, controlling. She told me I didn't understand her, that she needed excitement, that I was boring. She said she loved me, but she needed something more. More than what? More than the life we built together. I don't know. Honestly, I just felt numb. The shock of it all was overwhelming. I never thought I'd be in this situation, and I don't even know what I want to do next. All I know is that this betrayal changed everything. After she finished her typical angry rant, accusing me of being paranoid and trying to control her life, I just sat there staring at her, feeling like I was in some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Her voice was trembling with rage, but her eyes, Those cold, calculating eyes said everything I didn't want to hear. She admitted nothing at first, just kept throwing insults my way. I could see she was trying to put on her usual bitchy front, but I knew better. That was her cover-up for the guilt she was trying to hide. I told her I saw the footage, that I knew she'd been cheating with Jason, that I had proof. She froze for a second, then burst into a fit of laughter, like I'd just told a joke. She dismissed it as some kind of mistake, said I was crazy for believing her affair had anything to do with her work. She said, "You're just jealous because Jason's better looking than you and probably treats me like a goddess. Maybe if you actually paid attention to me, I wouldn't need to cheat." Her words cut deeper than I thought possible. I felt my stomach turn, hurt and rage blending into one terrible feeling. I told her I didn't care about her excuses anymore, that I was done with her lies, that I'd seen enough. I was done trusting her. She kept insisting I was overreacting, that I was imagining things, that this was all some twisted misunderstanding. But I knew the truth now, plain and simple. She'd been sneaking around with Jason during our fundraising events behind my back while I was supposed to be supporting her career. It felt sick, worse than sick, like a punch to the chest every time I remembered her lips on him, the way she looked in that footage. The worst part, I started feeling a strange mix of anger and sadness. Anger because she'd betrayed me so deeply, lied to my face for months, and then had the nerve to laugh it off like it was some joke. Sadness because I realized I'd been blind, that I'd trusted her with my whole heart and she'd just thrown it away like it was nothing. I kept asking myself, how did it get this far? How did the woman I loved turn into someone who could cheat on me, lie, and then dismiss it all so casually? By now, she was packing around the living room, throwing her hands up, calling me insecure and controlling. Her voice was shrill, full of venom. She kept telling me I was overreacting, that I didn't understand her, that she was just bored with me, that I was dull and predictable. Her words didn't sting as much as her actions. She was trying to turn the tables, make me seem crazy, but I didn't care anymore. I felt a strange sense of clarity, like I'd been living in a fog, and now I was finally seeing things clearly. I told her she needed to leave, that I couldn't stay under the same roof with her after what I'd seen. She screamed at me, called me every name in the book, told me I was a fool for not knowing what she really was, that she deserved better, that I was just a boring, insecure husband who couldn't satisfy her. I was numb, honestly. Part of me wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her, ask how she could do this to me, to us. But I just stood there watching her storm out of the living room, tears streaming down her face, still yelling. I was left alone in that silence, the footage still flashing in my mind. It was like my world had shattered into pieces. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I kept replaying everything, trying to make sense of it all. I felt like a fool. How could I have been so blind? I kept asking myself if I should fight for her, try to save what little was left of our marriage, or just let it go. The truth was, I was so hurt, so betrayed, that I couldn't even think straight. All I knew was that I had to do something, but I didn't quite know what yet. I just knew I had to figure out my next move, and fast. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind kept going back to the footage, to her laughter, her lies, the way she looked when she was caught. I knew I couldn't just keep sitting in this mess, though. I needed answers, and I needed a plan. I decided I had to be smart about this. No impulsive moves, no rash accusations. I needed to gather everything I could, and that meant going beyond just what I saw on the footage. First thing I did was look through her phone. I needed to find out if there were other messages, other people involved, or maybe some clues that would tell me how long this had been going on. I found her password pretty quickly. She's not exactly the most careful about keeping her digital life locked down. I felt guilty just doing it, but honestly, I was past feeling guilty. I needed to know the full extent of her lies. What I uncovered was worse than I expected. There were dozens of texts between her and Jason, flirtatious stuff, suggestive messages, even explicit photos she'd sent him. Some of the messages were from just a few weeks ago, which made me realize this was more than a one-night stand. It had been going on for months, maybe longer. I saw photos of her in bed with him, her lips curled into provocative smirks, her body language screaming that she was enjoying herself. It was like a knife twisting in my chest. I also found out she'd been lying about her whereabouts during those fundraising events. She told me she was working late or at some work party, but in reality, she was with Jason. Sometimes she'd say she was meeting with donors, but those texts told a different story. She was sneaking around, having sex with him right under my nose. How could I have missed all of this? How blind was I? Feeling sick but determined, I started planning my next move. I knew I had to confront her again, but I didn't want to do it impulsively. I wanted to do it with proof, something irrefutable. I decided to put a little surveillance of my own. I set up a hidden camera in the living room, just to see if she'd come back and what she'd do. I wanted to catch her in the act again, or at least see if she made any more moves. I was already starting to get a sense of her pattern, how she'd come back late, try to pretend everything was normal, but I wasn't going to let her fool me anymore. While I was setting that up, I kept thinking about what this all meant for us. I loved Lisa, or maybe I did, at least I thought I did. But this betrayal, it felt like the end of everything I believed in. I kept asking myself, was this worth fighting for? Or was I better off just cutting my losses and walking away? I knew I had to face her again soon, to get some kind of clarity, but part of me just wanted to shut her out entirely. I couldn't believe I'd trusted her all these years, only to find out she'd been cheating on me with someone who's supposed to be just a colleague. Later that day, I got a call from an anonymous number. Usually, I'd ignore that kind of thing, but something made me answer. Instead of a voice, I heard static, then a message. It was a recording. Someone had sent me a voice clip. My heart sank when I heard it. It was her, Lisa, talking with Jason. I couldn't hear everything clearly, but I caught snippets. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've missed you. Let's make it even better this time." I recognized her voice instantly, and there was no denying it anymore. Someone out there knew what she'd been doing, and they just sent me the proof. It was a game changer. I didn't know who sent it, but I didn't need to. I had enough now. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I was building a life with, had been lying to me for months. She'd been unfaithful, and worse, she didn't even seem to care. That was the part that hurt the most. The cold, dismissive way she lied, the way she tried to cover it all up, as if I was too stupid to see what was happening. That moment, hearing her voice with Jason, made me realize I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay anymore. I had to face the facts and decide what I was going to do about it. That night I couldn't sleep, and I kept going over everything I'd found. The footage, her messages, the recording, every piece of evidence was like a brick wall closing in on me. I felt anger bubbling up, but underneath it was a deep, aching sadness. I had loved Lisa, or at least I thought I did. Now I was starting to see her for what she really was, a liar, a cheat, someone who didn't respect the vows we made. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever feel normal again. Deciding on my next move was tough. I knew I couldn't just confront her again without being prepared. I wanted to give her a chance to come clean, but I also wanted her to face the consequences of her actions. I made a plan. I would wait until the next day when she inevitably came home, and I'd lay everything out in front of her. No more secrets, no more hiding. I'd have the footage, the recordings, and all the proof I needed. When she finally arrived that evening, her face was smug, like she thought she'd somehow won. She tried to act normal, flopping onto the couch, but I was already ready. I pulled out my phone, played the footage of her sneaking into the back room with Jason. Her face twisted into a mixture of shock and defiance as she watched herself betray me on my own screen. She opened her mouth to lie, but I cut her off. "I know everything," I said coldly. "I know about the affair, about Jason, about everything you've been hiding. I saw the messages, the pictures, the recordings, all of it. How long has this been going on? Months? Longer?" She looked at me, her eyes darting around, trying to come up with some bullshit excuse. "Mike, you don't understand. It's not what it looks like. I was stressed, overwhelmed, and we just had a moment. It meant nothing. It's over now, I swear." I shook my head, feeling a mixture of disgust and disappointment. "A moment, really? You've been screwing around with him during fundraising events behind my back, and you think I'll buy that it's just some one-time thing? You lied to me about everything, about your late nights, your work, all of it. Do you even realize how much you've hurt me?" Her face started to crumble, tears forming, but her voice still full of defiance. "You're just overreacting. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a mistake. I love you, Mike, I do, but I needed something more. You're so boring. We've been stuck in this rut and I needed excitement. Sex with Jason, it was just sex. It didn't mean anything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt so sick, so betrayed that I almost didn't recognize her anymore. Her words all sounded like excuses, justifications for her infidelity. I realized then that I had to make a choice. Do I keep putting up with this, or do I finally accept that she's not the woman I thought she was, the woman I married? I looked her in the eyes and told her to pack her things and leave. No more games, no more lies. She screamed, called me all kinds of names, said I was just a boring little man who didn't satisfy her, that she deserved to be happy, that I was too controlling. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was numb. I told her I'd call a lawyer if she stayed, that I was done, that I wanted her gone so I could start trying to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. As she stormed out, her heels clicking loudly on the hardwood floor, I sat alone in the dark, feeling emptier than I ever had. The house was silent except for my pounding heartbeat. I kept telling myself I'd be okay, that I'd move on. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about trust completely shattered. I'd loved her, trusted her, and she threw it all away like it was nothing. I was angry, hurt, and confused, but I also knew I couldn't stay stuck in the past. I had to find a way to move forward, even if it was just one step at a time. The days that followed were the hardest I've ever lived through. After she left, the house was eerily quiet. Every corner reminded me of her perfume still faintly lingering on her clothes, her favorite mug still sitting on the kitchen counter. It felt like the walls were closing in, suffocating me with memories of what we used to be. Honestly, I felt like I was walking around in a fog, angry one minute, grieving the next. I kept asking myself how I had missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind. I threw myself into sorting out the mess she left behind. Her clothes, her makeup, all the little things she suddenly abandoned, each one felt like a dagger. I contacted a lawyer to get advice about the divorce, about the house, about everything. I wanted to make sure I had my ducks in a row. But amidst all that, I kept replaying the footage, the recordings, trying to make sense of it all. I wondered how I'd missed it for so long, how I'd been so trusting, so naive. One thing that kept gnawing at me was the fact that she'd lied every step of the way. Even now, I kept finding little things, texts she deleted, calls she ignored, emails she tried to hide. It was like peeling an onion, layer after layer, each revealing more deception. I felt both disgusted and furious. How could she betray me like this? And how could I ever trust her again? I didn't even know if I wanted to. I started to lean on my friends, people I could trust. I told them everything about her affair, the footage, the recordings, and they were surprisingly supportive. They told me I deserved better, that I should focus on myself now, that this wasn't my fault. Still, it was hard to shake the feeling of betrayal, of loss. I'd built my entire life around her, and now everything was falling apart. One night I sat alone in the living room, staring at the flickering light of my phone. I got a message from an unknown number. I hesitated at first, then opened it. It was a video. It was from someone who claimed to be watching her, someone who knew the truth all along. I watched as a man's voice spoke into the camera, describing her infidelity, confirming everything I'd already seen. It was a shocking revelation. The person had been tracking her, watching her move behind my back, and now they had proof that couldn't be denied. That moment made everything sharper, more real. I felt overwhelmed with a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to reach out, to find out who this person was, to thank them for confirming my suspicions. Another part wanted to block it all out, to forget the pain entirely. But I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back. Not to her, not to that life full of lies. Slowly, I started to accept that I had to move on, no matter how much it hurt. I had to rebuild myself piece by piece. I couldn't allow her betrayal to define me, but I also couldn't ignore the fact that I'd lost something incredibly precious: trust, love, the future we once shared. And now I was left to pick up the pieces and figure out what came next. In the days that followed, I made a conscious effort to focus on myself. I started going to the gym again, trying to clear my mind and rebuild my strength, physically and emotionally. I stopped obsessively checking her social media, the messages, the emails. I realized that hanging onto this pain wasn't going to help me move forward. It was just holding me hostage in a past I couldn't change. One evening, I sat down and thought about everything I'd learned, about her lies, her betrayal, the way she'd turned my trust into nothing. I didn't hate her, I was too exhausted for that. Mostly I felt sad. Sad because I thought I knew her, loved her, and now I was left with nothing but shattered illusions. I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust someone again, or if I'd spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, doubting everyone. But amid the pain, I also found clarity. I realized that I deserved to be happy, to be with someone who truly valued me, who wouldn't cheat or lie. The betrayal was a wake-up call, one that forced me to reevaluate what I want in life and in a partner. It's a bitter lesson, but a necessary one. Looking back, I see how naive I was to think that love alone could fix everything. That trust was something you could take for granted. I learned that betrayal doesn't just hurt, it changes you. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I can survive this. I will rebuild. Now I'm focusing on my career again, reconnecting with friends and trying to rediscover who I am outside of this relationship. It's not easy, and I'm not the same person I was a few weeks ago, but I'm moving forward. Slowly, painfully, but surely. And I want anyone reading this to know, if you're in a situation like mine, trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs. And remember, even in the darkest moments, there's always a way out, a way to heal, a way to find yourself again.